you guys want to talk about. And obviously, if you don't have some stuff, I do. So we'll bring up some of those things. Um, I'll mention one right off the bat. I haven't looked this up online, so I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. By the way, um, this is something that is new for me. Just in the last week, I've gone to the effort and have learned a little bit about stock trading and options and futures and those kinds of things. This is actually a couple of different assets that I fake own. So this is a virtual account. There's no real money involved here. This is a, a, a platform called Trade Surge, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. And right now, I have 100 shares of what's called um, Tesla option calls, and and then I also have 10 shares of gold not options, gold ETFs, which is not real gold, but it is a electronic gold, essentially call, meaning that if I wanted to convert it to real gold, I'd have the equivalent of 1 ounce. And I bought both of these about 48 hours ago, and I'm up $58.70 on about um, well, this was a $1,367 investment, and this was a $230, $2,300. So it's about 3,600, I guess, and 58 up, which means I'm somewhere around 1.5% to 2% in 2 days, which expand that out over a month, and that would be about 15 to 17%, or over a year, it would be over 130%. So I mean, it's not bad. So, but again, I'm testing out my own interests and skills, and just seeing how this whole process works. But I wanted to show another site here, so I'm going to open it up because last night, Deb and I watched a movie that just came out on um, Friday in the United States. And it is simply called Reagan. So, as you can imagine, it is about Ronald Reagan. Here's a picture of the real Ronald Reagan right here, and Dennis Quaid, who is playing him in this movie. And here is the IMBD, which is a website that focuses on videography, videos, and it is a drama based on the life of Ronald Reagan, from his childhood to his time in the Oval Office. It actually goes beyond that. It actually goes up to when he found out that he was slowly getting essentially my brain's going dead now. Um, he was losing his mind, and he realized it, and he actually ends um, the movie with, they end the movie with a quote from him thanking the people around him that will help him and be with him and stay with him, Nancy, his wife, and just anybody else in his life that would be willing to help him and be with him. So again, so it goes beyond his life in the presidency. And there's been several other movies about Reagan, but this one is the most recent. Obviously, just came out, and it's interesting. I don't know whether these other ones here are this about this movie or a different one. Yeah, I don't think this is about this most recent movie. So anyway, we watched it last night. It's very well done, and they show Dennis Quaid having this little bit of a quirk on the left side of his face, and I had forgotten that Reagan also had that. So you notice it's not just evenly balanced in his smile. See that, Mark? How his
Yeah.
smile a little this side. Well, if you go back to that picture that we had of Dennis Quaid.
I mean, he looks awful lot like Reagan. Indeed,
I mean,
doesn't he?
it's not a bad job. Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, here's here is again Quaid,
right.
and here's Quaid, and notice a little difference in the side of the mouth. Here it's straighter. This is when they're actually younger. Let's just play this. We'll unmute it.
But a president, now he can do a thing or two.
Everybody wants to live the world.
So is this movie
Citizen, I would
historically?
see political party outlawed.
Historically accurate.
Yes.
Um, I think it's maybe a little early. I haven't seen anybody that has weighed in yet that are still alive, and there are a number of
Mhm.
people that were um, in his administration that are still alive. To whether they said that it was accurate or not, it's supposed to be accurate.
Okay.
But who knows? Anyway,
All right.
this is 2.5 minutes long. Let me play this. I don't know if you play a video on Zoom, Mark, and the volume's going through, will you hear it?
Yes, we're hearing it.
Okay.
On the basis of its ideology, because I still believe, Mr. Chairman, that democracy can handle it. I was a brand new KGB officer, given my first intelligence assignment. A certain actor and union leader.
Dutch, there's a purpose for you, love.
You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to that. Tommy's on one side, the mob on the other. You're right in the middle, son.
You put as much work into your career as you do making your speeches. You'd have an Oscar by now. Hello, I'm Nancy Davis.
Hello, Nancy Davis. I'm Ron Reagan. I'm curious, Ron, what would you say is the issue of our time? No question about it. Communism and the Soviet Union. Get in the game, run for office. No, we like your vote.
That's not your name. Do his initials help or are? Honey, Roy Rogers is here, and he's running for governor.
And wait, here's against such a proposal. There you go again. But he was not afraid to take us on. There's nothing a retired governor can do about the Soviets. But a president, now he can do a thing or two.
Welcome to your life.
I was a lifeguard on a river.
There's no turning.
And I learned how to beat the currents. Just surface. Here's a diplomacy. Well, if you think that got there on the east end, why? You just wait. What did the president know? And when did he know it? What would you do?
You guys, dogs are barking their heads off. We have a FedEx delivery going. Just stop that. Anyway, that was a little clip of this movie. Again, well worth watching, and it's in theaters, but you can watch it if you have any ability to get it live before that point. Any other questions you had, Mark, about him and that movie?
I think it should be pretty interesting because I can learn the history a little bit. So yeah,
Yeah,
should be good.
yeah. All right. I apologize. There's a FedEx delivery occurring, and the dogs are going a little bit nuts. Well, let's see if there's any questions from the group yet. I think I saw several in the chat. Binge-worthy food and farming podcast. That's interesting. What is it that we should be should be binging on? From stories about the origin of your favorite crops to farming advice you can use. Oh, I guess it isn't the food that's binge worthy, it's the podcasts. All right. Here are the ones. So climate cuisine, farm small, farm smart. Wow, that's an interesting one. Diego Footer has been around for a long time in the regenerative and food area as a host. And he actually, gosh darn, I wish they'd stop their barking. He actually was the host of the first two regenerative farming conferences, large ones in San Diego. And I think he is from San Diego. And I attended both of those. This would be fun to just kind of click on this and see what farm small are. See if you can get to it. There, it's opening. There's Diego. It's the longest running vegetable farming podcast in the world, which I mean, I'm wondering if because he didn't used to call it Farm Small, Farm Smart, but it's been around, his general podcast has been around a long time. 20 years, probably. This is just giving a little description of it. The archives, 300 episodes. Let's see if we can find. Here's an interesting, did you see this? Paper Pot Companies. Maybe that's his company, Mark. Let's see if it's got the archives here. Listen on iTunes. Listen on Player FM. I'm just going to see if he has his total archives, and I don't see them. Maybe click on the podcast and see what that gets us to. Well, that gets us to that page. That's just a description of it. He's a very good interviewer, everybody. Really good. So if you get a chance, this would be a great podcast to watch, listen to. And I'm betting that the small farm smart is a continuance of what he used to call something else. And I'm not right now remembering what he called it. We talked about it, Mark, really early on when we first started doing EAT webinars. So I'm going to look up Diego Footer here and see what it says about different things that he's hosted. He's from San Diego, like I said, even though, and I think that's his real name. I don't think that Permaculture Voices, that's what it was called.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Um,
I was thinking, I was thinking Farm Fresh, but I think Dave Roger has that uh,
yeah.
company.
Yeah, it originally was was Permaculture Voices, and the
Right.
conference was the first and second annual permaculture conferences, and they were unbelievable and huge, and yet it only lasted twice. Um,
Mm,
so here's another one, In Search of Soil. So maybe that was another name that he used, because I don't think he does that many of these. Small Farm, Permaculture Voices. See what else it says on videos here. Who's this, everybody? Who's that picture of?
Elaine.
Elaine. Yeah. There's another one.
Right.
And there's another one. Boy, she's in here a bunch. I was see if Mark is. Oh, this guy. Can't think of his name. Looking at the soil, rich soils. Must like using people on webinars that have the same name as him. Here's Diego
Okay.
Verdaguer, so first name's the same. Man, that looks like ours, Mark. It's not. And that's microgreens.
Right.
Looks very much like what ours looked like.
Yeah, they're doing this. I think same kind of trays to grow um, the fodder.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any other names here. I think we're getting to different Diegos here, actually. So anyway, that was great comment, Alicia. See what else is in the chat. Gosh, now you're in Buffalo today, Alicia. You travel more than anybody I know.
Right. She's in New York.
Yeah. Restoring shallow corals. Just a nice little link to look at. New farmer mentoring program, farmprogress.com. I'll click on that in a minute. Oh, let's go back to those binge-worthy. So we had Farm Small, Farm Smart, Farm Traveler, Female Farmer Project, Gastropod. We drink and we farm things. Young Farmers Podcast. That looks like it is the list that this particular list, that people do lists on everything. So, and it just, for whatever reason, this person chose 7. Climate Cuisine, Farm Small, Farm Smart, Farm Traveler, Female Farmer Project, Gastropod. We drink and we farm things. So it says sometimes you need a laugh. Well, pour yourself a drink of your choice and take a seat. From Bev Ross to Sam Bolton, this comedy podcast celebrates all things farming, especially when things go wrong, like when animals escape. You'll pick up some tips and techniques. That's kind of cool. And then the last one is young farmers. Sounds very cool. I hope we get more and more young farmers. We don't have enough of them. So let's look at this. Corals. Dairy cow management. I'm gonna see what this new farm mentoring progress is. New farmer mentoring. These aren't just young guys either, or gals. I don't know why there aren't any gals there. They were at the Indiana State Fair. And I think this is just they're actually trying to put together a group to mentor young farmers. These are not the young farmers, obviously. All right. Well, that was cool. See some of these others. Let's click on the Young Farmers podcast, see what that gives us. It's a project of the National Young Farmers Coalition. Boy, you gotta just either accept or reject cookies on every single site you go to. Farm report, farm bill for the next generations. Building climate resilience. You don't do very many of these. This one's in January of this year. This one was in September of last year. Here's one from July of last year. April of last year. August of 22. December of 21. June of 21. Well, not very many of these that they do, so you don't have to, you can take your time watching them. There's not that many that they do a year. I was gonna see how far back they go. Two 2018, looks like they were doing a lot more then. Gosh, they were doing it almost every day. Yeah, they're a little bit like us. They decided early on to do a lot of them. Looks like this is the first one, July 25th, 2018. Farm bill gets redone every 4 years. So that's why this was an 18. Actually, it's 5 years because it was redone last year, 23. So throw in some other thoughts that we can go look at. This has been great looking at these podcasts. Let's go back and look at one more. This one was cool. We drink and we farm things. I don't think that's what this is. SBO bet. I don't think this was the. I don't think
Oh,
this took us
this
to where
is
we wanted to go.
a casino site, probably.
Yeah, it's some kind of a casino site. I don't know what it was. Well, here it says we drink and we farm things. Why is that? It's blocking it.
Yeah,
Say accept
probably it got hacked.
something. Yeah, what a mess. Oh well, let's get rid of that. All right, how about gastropod? Let's see that one. Cynthia Graver and Nicola Twilley. Are your pastrami and bologna sandwiches giving you cancer? I hope not, but I don't eat either one of those types. But what's the buzz on eating bugs? Can insects really save the world? Yeah, I think a lot of people believe they maybe could. There's no reason we shouldn't eat them. But I know a lot of people would not feel very good about that. It's an hour-long webcast. Let's real quickly see what they have to say.
Ada lives underground for 13 or 17 years, slowly feasting on plant or tree xylem. And so it's going to give it a very vegetal quality with a little mild hint of nuttiness.
Which is exactly the tasting notes I'm looking for in my wine, and also, I guess, my cicadas. We, by the way, are Gastropod, the podcast that looks at food through the lens of science and history. I'm Nicola Twilley, although my husband calls me Bugs. I hope affectionately. And I'm Cynthia Graver. In this episode, we are indeed all about bugs, the real ones, not Nikki. For a lot of folks in the US and Europe, eating insects is either super adventurous and unusual, or if you've watched so much Fox that your brain has melted, an evil plot foisted on you by the global elite.
It's part of a larger agenda. Nobody eats bugs voluntarily. They're filthy. People need to be persuaded to give up meat.
I don't want to eat the bugs. I don't want to live in the pod, and nothing they can do will make me.
Eating insects is repulsive and un-American.
But actually, insects are a totally normal part of a meal in most of the world.
Oh, wow, there we go. So that sounds really cool. We've talked about this. We've had a couple speakers, but could be a fun one to listen to. So anyway, I was just looking at our audience and one person that's out there, if he wants to unmute, because we wanted to get him on a webinar and we haven't gotten it scheduled yet, Mark. Doug Ness, you are out there. Is it possible to unmute you because you're now kind of getting kind of into your season and getting closer to coming back here to Idaho, and not that close yet, but see if Doug unmutes, Mark.
Right, he should be
So,
able to. Yeah.
so another audience member that's one of our old time regulars is Faye Christie is on. And Faye, if you wanted to unmute, we'd love to have you chat with us a little bit. What did you say, Mark, about people?
Oh, okay, so Doug should be able to speak now because he's
Okay.
unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're coming in good.
Sure. Hello.
Yep, you're good, Doug.
Yes, hello. Yeah.
How is Alaska today?
Windy and rainy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had a colder August. Colder, rainy, windy August.
Really?
But still beautiful. Yeah. More than normal. Yeah. But been crazy busy, so I haven't got back on.
I believe we might have had the hottest August on record here. They haven't given all the data yet, but more, I do know that we had more days over 100 than any other August. So,
Yeah, I've been seeing that reports today, just the smoke and the fires. Yeah, pretty sad to see. I'm sure there's a lot of guys with cabins and houses that are getting damaged up there in the mountains.
not as many as you think. Actually, there are a lot more fires than normal. Everybody says that, and everybody says it's more smoky than normal. But there hasn't been that much damage. It's been actually
Oh, really?
good jobs by the firefighters to keep that under control and keep it away from buildings.
Oh, that's good news. Yeah.
Yeah. So we still need to get you scheduled sometime to just take it to where we can go look at, just to have you walk us around with your camera and show us.
Sure. We're just getting to the end of our season, so our guests, our Airbnb and our guiding excursions are slowing down now. Yeah, we could either do it next week or the following week. I have a lot of content I can send to Mark and so he can put up to see what's going on there.
Yeah,
And it'd be really interesting, I think. So
yeah,
yeah.
I think we'd love it.
yeah,
No, I
I'll
think that's a good idea.
yeah, I'll check with him on that. Mhm.
Okay. So, have you had snow yet, or does it still come later?
No, we had snow last week up the high country. That's about 4,500 feet. And we're at 200 feet above sea level, so the tops of the mountains are getting dusted. And so the leaves are falling, birch leaves are starting to turn yellow and a few of them are starting to fall to the ground. So fall's coming. Winter's coming.
Anything
So
exciting trapping wise this year?
I haven't done anything yet. Moose season just opened up, so I'll be trying to harvest my subsistence moose here in the next week or two.
Okay.
And so we'll see how that goes. And then fishing was good. We had the highest on record sockeye salmon run this year. They've been doing recording counts for 24 years, and this was the highest they've ever had in the recorded history of sockeye returning to the lake. And that was 818,000 came into the lake here.
That's a good sign, right? I mean, it says things are going well out in the ocean, right? So
Yeah. And Bristol Bay, in the last 5 years, they've had 3 of the historic high sockeye runs. This year was average, but the last 2 or 3 years have all been record return years, and pretty significant there. So yeah, the system is very, very healthy here in Southwest Alaska. Other parts of Alaska, they're not getting the returns like that, but in Southwest Alaska, we're in really good shape. Yeah.
and where is most of that fish going as far as market? Do you know?
All over, a lot of international, a lot of Japanese, Chinese, ship pretty much all over the world. Of course, the United States is a huge consumer too, but a lot of international trade and very high in demand. Mhm.
So quickly, and this is again since last week, I got to share this to the whole group, but because Doug's on, there's relevance between he and I. Russ and I went dove hunting Sunday. So Sunday was opening day. And we went to a site out on the rim overlooking Boise at the very end of Cole Road, Doug, out near the Birds of Prey area and where their headquarters is. Okay. Just to
Uh-huh.
give perspective.
Yep.
There is what used to be a shooting range there, a trap and skeet range called Black Dog Trap and Skeet. Did you ever go there and shoot?
No, I didn't shoot there, no. Mm-mm.
Anyway, it's been there 35, 40 years. It shut down about 3 years ago, and we're potentially going to buy it from the people who bought it from the guy who operated it for a lot of its time as an operating shooting range. And the reason that the guys bought it was just a speculative buy. And they had no idea what it might cost to clean up the lead in the soil. And obviously that's something we can figure out and we've done. And so we do know what those costs are. So anyway, we haven't closed yet. I think it is likely that we will, but anyway, we've gotten to be friends with these sellers. And their last name is Griffin. And it might have some relevance to you, Doug, and because you might remember one of their family because of a political tie. So I'll stop there and see if you remember that last name, Griffin.
I know a Toby Griffin. Um,
The first
Not
name
offhand.
of the person that's had the political connections is Sebastian Griffin.
Sebastian. Sebastian. Boy, right now I can't picture that.
Okay, now I'll give you more. I'm giving a little just hints here. The youngest person in the United States to ever write a major act that got approved by a state legislature. When he was 17, he wrote an act that got approved. He's now on the Nampa the Nampa City Council, and
Oh,
will probably, I mean, watch for his name. But anyway, I asked him if he knew anybody in your family, and I couldn't remember Hannah's husband's name because of the political. But anyway,
sure.
bottom line, he's a name to watch and a very, very interesting young guy. 21 now. He's 21 years old and is a city councilman in Nampa.
Interesting. Yeah. How about that?
So we dove hunted with him, and anyway, it hasn't been cold here yet, so the doves are still very plentiful. So we had an amazing hunt. It was quite
Good.
the hunt.
Ha.
And it was somewhat significant to me because I haven't had even what I'd call an average dove hunt in Colorado because it always gets so cold the buggers leave. I mean, it's like it's on a time clock, and they'll be there August 20th, and by August 31st they're gone. So
Yeah.
and yeah,
Wow.
we haven't had lows in the below 50 yet. So a lot of doves around, but had a real fun hunt. It was really cool.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Enjoyable.
And I remember some at least one dove hunt that we had way back many years ago. So that's why. Yeah. And actually,
Yeah, that's a few years ago for sure.
and the best dove hunts I ever had in my life were in South Dakota. If it just didn't get cold before the 1st of
Yeah.
September. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Out of Sioux Falls there.
yeah, and anywhere around there. Yeah, just find a farm pond and some trees. So anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Wayne, just a reminder, we also have Faye with us. She wanted to say something. So,
awesome. Faye,
yeah.
what's up? How you doing? It's been a while.
Hi, Wayne. Gee, I just so love these podcasts, but I'm finding it so difficult to tune in. My life is unbelievably busy, but I have to really make a big effort to keep tuning in. This is lovely to listen to.
And we're 12 hours different, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I live outside Nelson, on the South Island of New Zealand now,
Right.
and I'm still doing my alpacas. And my textile business out of it, but I nearly took a wipeout with the COVID restrictions. They were very severe in this country. And so I'm recovering. I've sort of taken a dog's leg and I've gone sideways into other product, because I'm finding that selling in the, I get invited to certain pretty classy markets, but I found that people just can't afford to buy my stuff. It's fairly high end and very artistic. But so I've been approached by a really classy shop in Queenstown to make stuff for them. So I'm busy working on samples to send off and see how that goes. Otherwise, my subdivision is through, and I've got a 7 hectare piece of land I'm going to sell. It's got a stream on it and beautiful sea and mountain views. But just got to wait for the market to come up again because, we're taking pretty hard hit here in New Zealand.
Yeah, and I've interviewed several times, and he came to visit me, a fellow named Zeb Harold, who is New Zealand native, and he actually was sheep farming with his father, and they do regenerative, sort of natural sheep farming, and they got really hit by the pandemic and the restrictions. And he's actually now gone to work with another farmer because they just can't make it. So his dad's doing their own sheep and he's working at another farm close to them. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it's really been very tough. I'm just so grateful that I've managed to survive on my little farm. But, it's requiring great dexterity of mind. And, not giving up, you have to be mentally very tough. But having lived in Rhodesia and gone through all of that, I think I was probably well equipped to do it. I've not enjoyed it, but, I lost my husband and I've still got one daughter in Africa, which is a huge source of worry. And I've got a daughter in Iceland and a son in England. We all had to go to countries that would accept us. And so that's why we're so split up. But yeah, life's been a huge challenge, but I'm just enormously grateful that I have survived and I'm hanging in here. And just finding out new ways of doing things. I joined Elaine's regenerative course.
okay,
And I'm also doing crypto at the moment as well. Anything to just try and get on top of things.
right. What would you call yourself with your crypto? A trader, or are you a long holder, or what do you, and are you doing things with micro coins, or sticking with Bitcoin and Ethereum, or what are you doing there just generally?
No, I took the easy and the expensive way out. I joined a course in Australia and they're teaching me how to trade, but through bots. And
Okay.
so it watches the market for you, which saves you a lot of time. But things in the crypto market are pretty tough at the moment. I think there's huge resistance from the old money order, and they're trying to crash us. But I think it's got to go through blockchain. The old money order was too easily manipulated and controlled by rather powerful people. So this is, to me, a much more humane way of dealing with currencies.
Let's schedule a time you and I just chat about that separately at some point, because I can pick your brain and maybe you can pick mine. I've messed around with crypto for about 2 years, really involved with it for about 3.5, but very, got quite serious a couple of years ago. So anyway, I have some thoughts that we can just talk together about. Back to the alpaca fleece and tell me about the kinds of products. And honestly, we might have a market for you. And we sell stuff right now that is very high end and really don't have much trouble, because we've developed a market, as you know, over a number of years. So we might talk about importing some of your stuff at some point here. So
Okay, yeah, I I started off with obviously I'm a knitter and a crocheter, so I started on that. But I figured that I would like to do felting.
okay.
But spinning and weaving and felting by hand is unbelievably time consuming. And running a farm on my own, I just didn't have time for it. So I investigated felting looms, and I found a lovely one in Kentucky
Huh,
and imported it here. It's a needle felting loom.
okay.
Imported it here at great expense, but started playing around with it. And obviously, I couldn't take tuition. So I developed my own techniques, and the owners of Felt Loom were so intrigued with what I was doing, because I'd been posting it on American websites, that they actually came and stayed with me for 4 days, and we shared an awful lot of information. And they liked the way I was doing it, because I was doing very thin, very fine, arty type of felt on silk, and using other materials as well. And so they were quite intrigued by it. And I was very impressed as well with what they showed me. And so I then started doing arty shawls and capes and, stuff made out of felt. And I've never got product left. It always sells. But again, after COVID, people were just short of money and I wasn't able to sell. So I've been selling fleece, dyed fleece and yarns and things like that. But I really would like to. I've actually been asked by an art gallery in Nelson, the Suter Gallery, to do an exhibition next year of coats and jackets and waistcoats, but, obviously arty ones. So I'm just drawing up designs at the moment and getting my machinery up to speed. And I do the designing all on computer, and then I can send it to a cutting machine that I have, which cuts out the designs, and then I lay them over a felt background. And I do a lot of baby blankets like that, which is fun. Yeah, so that's where I've sort of morphed into.
Huh. Again, we'll just talk another time about that, because I absolutely could have a potential market. We buy most of our stuff from North American sources if we can get it. We get some Peruvian stuff, but I actually think we could get some unique value from something coming from New Zealand, just because we'd have buyers that would just buy it because they like the design and they like the fact that it was from New Zealand. And if everybody doesn't know it, felted alpaca products can be just amazingly soft, because they're really made from some of the lesser quality fibers. We felt things that aren't soft and fine enough to make into spun types of items, or or woven or knitted and so on. So anyway,
I actually use my finest fleeces. I've got five, fibers. It's down at 15 and 16 micron. So I use my very best fleeces for felting. And
wow.
believe me, when you get a client who, because I do a lot of commissions, when you get a client who puts it on for the first time and you see how gooey they go,
Wow.
you realize it's all in the feel. The color combinations and the design is all nice for the outward, but the feel of very fine, low micron fleece is just wonderful. I've had people who said, "Oh no, I don't wear fiber at all. I get the itches," which I do as well if I wear sheep fiber. But once I've converted them to wearing alpaca, there's no more arguments.
Let me tell people what the best comparison I can make, and this is a little bit risque. Sorry for this. If you wear a low micron, so in that 15, 16 range, and that would be very low actually, because most the commercial knitted fleece or woven fleece is probably in the 25, 26 range. And even that's incredibly soft. But if you're in that 15, 16 range, it would be almost like being warm, but feeling naked,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's like you don't feel like you have anything on, but yet it is an unbelievably warm fiber. So sitting around a campfire, I could see it with, in a very cold or cool evening with one of those items on, and yet and just feeling like you were, like I said, naked but feeling completely warm. So it's great. Anyway, we'll talk more. So shoot, that kind of stuff would go well up in Alaska, Doug.
Well, Margie's Deb gave Margie, I think, a pair of socks, and they're the most phenomenal. She doesn't stop talking about them, how comfortable they are and how warm they are. And really, really good.
Faye, Doug has a daughter here in the Idaho area that shops all over the country at different times for classic clothing, right, Doug? Describe a little bit of what she looks for. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, she just got back from Great Britain just a couple weeks ago too. But she's 24 and she's created a network of unique. She just has an eye appeal for it, and of more 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s clothing and materials. It could be wall hangings, different things. And she's kind of found a niche that is people are like to see the older classics. And she's actually created a pretty steady business with that, and now quite a following as well.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Well, Faye, it's so cool that you came on. It's it is not an easy time of the day for you, or it's the early morning. So I appreciate you being on. Mark, there any other comments or questions that we should get to? Because we're getting close to our sign-off time here.
Yeah, there's a question from Alicia. So she asks, can wild duck be tamed?
Oh, yes. I'm not going to say it's something that you might want to try, and you maybe have to ask yourself, why would you want to do it? Again, they're wild. And if one was injured, for example, and you happen to save it, rescue it, and could get it nursed back to health, and then maybe it maybe had a broken wing or something, and you really felt like it wouldn't survive in the wild, I guess that's a reason that you could tame one. But could you? Absolutely. I know of a number of people who have ducks as pets. So they can be trained. They're smart animals, and they can be made to be domesticated. I would guess you would never be able to, I'm going to use the word potty train them to where they're going to go to the bathroom where you want them to. You probably would have that issue to have to deal with, but could they be trained? Absolutely, they could. I'm just not sure why that you'd want to do that.
Yeah, and I think
I've
there's a
had
chance. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Doug.
I've had quite a few wild animals over all the years, and birds and ducks and squirrels and you name it, fox, you name it. And they can be they all have their different personalities, but as they get to be a year or two old, their natural tendencies, whether it be breeding or migration, starts to pull on them, and that they usually will go. Not too often are you going to get a wild animal to be a pet too much longer than a year or two, because their natural instincts that's in them starts to take over and can change their habits real quickly, and they'll go back to the wild if they have the opportunity.
Because I don't want to forget this one, that I think you're absolutely right, Doug, and it makes total sense. But I have a device that you really should have there at your lodge that will save you money, but it also will be a something your guests enjoy. And I still can't answer why it's not marketed more than it is. But anyway, it's called the box. All right. And there are a couple different manufacturers. The one that I have used, I've used two different manufacturers, but one that I feel the best about is called a super box. And it's essentially a 3-inch by 4-inch by an inch hard drive that's got additional electronics that will capture anything over the air. And as long as you have Wi-Fi, you can then not have to have services that you would buy. So it's you buy the box and then there's no subscription or anything else. And you can then just get anything that's ever been broadcast, you can get. And I bought my first one, I think 7 years ago. Mark, do you remember the timing? It was very close to the time we started EAT. So that's 8 years ago, but 6 or 7 years ago. And I've probably referred 50 of them to other people that have gotten them. And anyway, I'll tell you more about it and show you how to get it and such when you're here. But it's a way, and I'm mentioning it today because one of the things you can do is you can watch first run movies on it that are in the theaters you won't be able to get on any other source for maybe weeks or maybe months in advance. So Deb and I watched the movie Reagan, which just came out Friday last night. We could have watched it Saturday over the weekend if we wanted to, but we did just watch it last night. And again, we didn't pay a dime for it. It's totally legal. I'm not quite sure how it's legal, and I don't know how other people don't figure it out and do more with it. It'd probably be something you could use down in New Zealand also, Faye. Well, not probably. I know it could. But it's an amazing tool, and yet it's not known by that many people. I'm not sure why. It only works on one device at a time, so you can't use like Bluetooth or something to move the signal, and it's one device per hookup. So you hook it up to a smart TV or whatever using a HDMI cable. But again, that's a minor negative, and you can move it around. It's small enough. I take it with me when I travel. I just put it in my backpack. And again, as long as you've got some kind of an internet signal, you can get things on. But anyway, we started the webinar out by me saying how much I enjoyed. Deb and I both did the movie last night, and I would recommend it to anybody. It's well done. Dennis Quaid is the star, and then John Voight is actually another one, an older actor. Not sure who played Nancy Reagan. It was a well-known woman actress. I just can't think of the name right now. Anyway, a little bit of an aside. Well, we are at 4 o'clock, and I like to be respectful of everybody, especially those that are watching it as a replay. Any other questions or comments, Mark, from anybody real quick?
Yeah, Robert has a couple of comments about bugs. So he's feeding bugs to the chicken and to goldfish. So I think that's, yeah, cockroaches might
Yeah,
find.
My bugs get fed to every goldfish they can possibly run into in my ponds. So,
All right.
um,
And Faye says, have you a link for me for the device? So yeah,
I'll put that link out for everybody. Yeah, and you can certainly order it from anywhere. I don't know what the shipping costs are, but I can't imagine they're that much. And by the way, we're talking about a device that is typically retail at the very highest at, let's say, $350, but I've seen it down as low as $250. And again, no subscription. You don't pay for anything after you have it. So. All right. Anything else, Mark?
Robert says, thank you, videos. And I think that's about it for questions.
All right. Doug, thank you so much for coming on live. Faye, thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.
And yeah, be in touch with Mark. Mark, make sure you reach back out and Reeve reach back out to Doug, and we'll figure out a
Yeah.
date. We can do something with him, and probably not on a Thursday. It could be, but just at a
Sure.
time that works for him. It works on
Right.
his schedule. And shoot, Faye, maybe we do one with you sometime too. It'd be wonderful to see some of your, just if you've got a video camera, a webcam, whatever, to see some of the fabric and the different things that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
Be
Yeah, that
fun.
would be great.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you, man. As for always, Mark's been the greatest for a long time. We will see everybody next week. Have a good